They told you it was magic. They told you it was the second coming of Bitcoin. They used the word trustless. It was a lie! Today, we are not talking about market caps or green candles. We are talking about slavery. We are talking about a trap so sophisticated, so beautifully wrapped in cypherpunk branding that it fooled the world. We are talking about the rot at the heart of Zcash. I'm not reading you a press release today. I'm telling you the history they tried to delete. The history of 17 chapters of betrayal. And by the time I am done, you will understand why I don't believe in Zcash. I believe in facts. Let's go back to the beginning, to what I call the original sin. You see, to make this privacy coin work, they had to use a bleeding edge form of cryptography. But this magic came with a demonic price. To create the rules of the system, they had to create a corresponding secret key, a master passkey. The Zcash team, in a moment of beautiful Orwellian irony, nicknamed this secret toxic waste. Now, listen to me closely. If you possess this toxic waste, you possess the power of God within that network. You can print infinite money. You can counterfeit Zcash silently, forever, inside the shielded pool, and no one would ever know. So, how did they secure this world-ending weapon? Did they use math? Did they use open source code? No, they used theater. They held a ceremony. 6 people. They brought in Edward Snowden, a man I respect, a man who risked everything, but they used him as a human shield to sell you this garbage. They told you to trust that these 6 people successfully destroyed the key. Trust us, they said. One of us must be honest. But here is the cosmic joke. The theater didn't matter. The secret handshakes didn't matter, because the flaw was already in the code. It was there from day one. For 2 years, from 2016 to 2018, the privacy coin you bought was a ticking time bomb. It had an infinite mint bug, a bug that allowed anyone sufficiently clever to counterfeit coins out of thin air. Now, here is where the cypherpunk mask falls off. The high priests at the Electric Coin Company, Zuko Wilcox and his inner circle, they found out about this bug on March 1st, 2018. A cryptographer on their own payroll found it. What did they do? Did they scream it from the rooftops? Did they embrace transparency? Hell no. They covered it up. They sat on a world-ending secret for months. They kept it secret from you, the users, the miners, the investors. They lied to you for almost an entire year. And do you know what they called this deception? They called it a noble lie. A noble lie. That is what a king tells a peasant. That is what a priest tells a child. They decided that they were the priestly class, and you were the serfs who couldn't handle the truth. They eventually fixed it with the sapling upgrade in October 2018. But they didn't tell you the truth until February 2019. They waited until they were safe. And when Zuko finally spoke, he had the audacity to say he believed no counterfeiting happened. Belief? I don't do religion. I demand proof. But you can't verify the supply of Zcash. Because the bug was inside the shielded pool, it is mathematically impossible to know if someone printed 1 billion coins. Zuko's defense is pathetic. He talks about turnstile accounting. He says if a counterfeiter printed money, there would be a race to the exits, and we'd catch them when they tried to cash out. A race to the exits? Does that sound like sound money to you? Or does that sound like a Ponzi scheme collapsing? The 21 million coin supply of Zcash is not a fact. It is an article of faith. And if you can't verify the supply, you don't have crypto. You have fiat with a cooler logo. But I hear you. I hear the voices in the back. But John, at least it's private. At least I can hide from the IRS. You sweet, naive idiot. Zcash isn't a privacy coin. It is a surveillance honeypot. Let me explain how they trapped you. They made a business decision to make privacy opt-in. They wanted to be listed on the big exchanges. They wanted the approval of the suits. So they made the default transaction transparent, just like Bitcoin. They betrayed the mission to get a ticker symbol. The result? The numbers don't lie. Less than 0.9% of transactions are fully private. Less than 1%. It's a rounding error. Do you understand how privacy works? You need a crowd. You need to be a needle in a haystack. But because nobody uses the privacy features, the anonymity set is a ghost town. If you use Zcash privacy, you aren't hiding. You are standing in an empty field, wearing a trench coat, screaming, "I am a secret!" The spies at Chainalysis, they love Zcash. They brag about it. They have full investigation support for it. Academics, people smarter than Zuko, proved they can de-anonymize 31.5% of the so-called private coins. This wasn't an accident. This was the strategy. They call it the regulatory sweet spot. They built a coin that looks private to lure you in, but is transparent enough to please the masters in Washington. And if you want the smoking gun, look at who they sleep with. In 2017, the Zcash company signed a partnership with JP Morgan Chase, the devil himself. They sold their privacy tech to the biggest bank in America for their corporate blockchain, Quorum. Think about it. Use your brain. Do you think JP Morgan would touch real privacy? Do you think they would buy a weapon that could be used against them? No. They bought a toy. They bought a neutered, compliant product. And Zuko Wilcox, the man at the top, he admitted it. He said privacy is a moral problem. A moral problem? Freedom is not a moral problem, Zuko. It is a human right. But he went further. He said he wants to make it so bad guys can be caught. He admitted he wants to help law enforcement catch people. He is a narc. He is not building a tool for your liberty. He is building a trap. He is building a honeypot where 99% of the transactions are visible, and the other 1% are easily traced because the pool is so small. They lured you in. They told you it was Snowden approved. They told you it was the HTTPS of money. But they sold your data to Chainalysis. They sold the tech to JP Morgan. And they sold you a coin with an unverifiable supply because they were too arrogant to admit they broke the code. This is not incompetence. This is betrayal. So, we know the tech is broken. We know the privacy is a lie. We know they are sleeping with JP Morgan. You have to ask yourself one question. Cui bono? Who benefits? Who benefits from all the lies? Follow the money. You see, Zcash isn't a decentralized public good. It is a corporation. And like any good corporation, it has a payroll to meet. From the very beginning, they baked a 20% tax into the protocol. 20% of every single block reward. Money that should have gone to the miners, to the people securing the network, was siphoned off. They called it the founder's reward, then the dev fund. I call it what it is, a slush fund. A mechanism to turn a cypherpunk protocol into a permanent salaried bureaucracy. And where did this money go? It went to Zuko. At the ZCon Zero conference in 2019, the mask didn't just slip, it was ripped off. It was revealed that Zuko Wilcox was personally receiving 2,033 ZEC per month. At the time, that was $220,000 per month. Over $2.6 million a year, taxed directly from the network's inflation, straight into the pocket of the man who told you privacy was a moral problem. But John, you scream, Why doesn't the community just revolt? Why don't they fork the code and fire these leeches? Because they can't. The Electric Coin Company and the Zcash Foundation built a legal trap. They call it the Zcash trademark. One insider called it the One Ring. It gives these two centralized entities a mutual veto. Unless both the corporation and the foundation agree, you cannot legally call your chain Zcash. They didn't build a protocol, they built a prison. And now comes the final power grab. They want to move Zcash from proof of work to proof of stake. Do you understand what that means? In proof of stake, he who has the gold makes the rules. And who has been collecting 20% of the gold for years? Them. They are going to use the money they taxed from you to buy the votes to rule over you forever. It is the perfect self-funding dictatorship. You think this is just greed? You think this is just a couple of guys in Silicon Valley trying to get rich? You are still looking at the puppets. You have to look at the origin. Who really built this thing? Who were the geniuses behind the curtain whose math you were forced to trust in that theatrical ceremony? Let's talk about the founding scientists. Many of them came from the Technion, the Israel Institute of Technology. That's not just a school. That is the feeder school for Unit 8200, Israel's NSA, the most aggressive signals intelligence agency on the planet. These aren't revolutionaries. These are state-vetted academics whose careers are built on surveillance. But it gets darker. We have to open the locked room, the one the community whispers about but never dares to speak. Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein wasn't just a monster. He was an intelligence asset. And Epstein directly funded the MIT Media Lab. Who was working at this Epstein-funded lab? Zcash co-founder Madar Svirza. Who was running the lab, taking Epstein's money? Joy Ito. The entire social and academic circle that gave birth to Zcash was swimming in Epstein's dirty money. Do you see the nightmare? The trusted setup relied on you believing these academics were pure. But the institutions they came from were already compromised. Matthew Green, another founder, he is alleged to have put a deliberate backdoor in the zero-coin prototype, a God mode. And then, Zcash just happens to launch with an infinite mint bug that nobody finds for 2 years. There are no coincidences. The toxic waste key wasn't a vulnerability. It was a feature. It was a weapon held in reserve by the very deep state monsters they pretended to be fighting. They didn't need to pick the lock. They funded the locksmiths. This is the truth they tried to delete. Zcash is not a tool for freedom. It is a product for slaves who want the illusion of privacy. They lured you in with cypherpunk branding. They took your money with a 20% tax. They sold your data to Chainalysis. They sold the tech to JP Morgan. And the whole thing was born in labs funded by Epstein and the surveillance state. If you want freedom, real freedom, you use code that doesn't have a CEO. You use code that doesn't have a moral problem with your liberty. You use Monero. You use Bitcoin. You stay away from the corporate, compromised, backdoored trash that relies on noble lies. I'm John McAfee, and remember, if you are using Zcash, you aren't hiding. You are lighting a flare in the dark and waiting for the wolves. Wake up.